I'm very glad to be here. I got to know Tom and Mark about 3 years ago, and to see the rate and pace at which SALT has grown in its popularity and its impact is quite an accomplishment. I was telling Mark earlier today, we had our big cloud conference last week in Vegas, Interconnect, and the IBMers, the number of IBMers wanting to swarm the SALT booth was pretty great to see, because back when I first met them, I don't think any of the IBMers actually knew SALT existed. So that's a really good thing to have happen here. So I'm going to take you through what I call a perfect storm. If you're familiar with meteorology, a perfect storm is when 3 or more elements of nature come together at a greater magnitude than is normal, right? And that's what we see happening in the market today. And I think SALT in particular is well positioned to take advantage of those market dynamics. And that's what I'm going to take you through today. So what's driving the changes today? Well, I trace it back to what happened with the mobile phone. When you had the mobile phone, it changed the behavior, it changed the expectation of what people expected, right? I call it the is there an app for that kind of generation. People's expectation completely changed. They needed immediate gratification. They wanted immediately a solution. No longer was it acceptable for these long duration enterprise IT type of deliveries. You needed to have something that was fast, you needed to have something that was robust, and you also needed to have something that was extensible. One of the other things about the mobile space is the fact that it allowed people to innovate autonomously, all right? They could take something and build something new. And you didn't have to have this long educational kind of process. So this aspect of ease of use from a consumability standpoint, from being able to create new things, being able to unleash people's innovative spirit so they could do things on their own, that's the kind of things that we see. And so we see this explosion of mobile devices and this move towards real time. You also have this aspect of wanting to be able to tell others about it. I think that's one of the great things about the world we live in today from a technology standpoint. If you inspire someone to use your technology, they can become the best salesperson on the planet because they become an evangelist for that technology. And you see that inside the SALT community. And so I like this quote from Albert Einstein. It says, if you always do what you always did, then you'll always get what you always got. And that's where enterprise IT was kind of stuck. And they kind of got kicked in the pants, so to speak, with the explosion of mobile devices. And now people have kind of been let out of their cages, so to speak, and they understand that they can innovate in new and interesting ways. And now the sky's the limit. You see things around real-time sensors, Internet of Things, where it's a scale and a magnitude that we've never experienced before. I talk about this need for cloud speed. And like I said, the change in the dynamics, the consumer of a service, is their expectations, he or she, is for you to be able to get a solution. And if you can't deliver a solution as an enterprise to a client faster than your competition, well, your competition's going to be able to win. I used to say that 2 guys in a garage could take out a large enterprise in today's world. And I had one guy raise his hand in one of my conferences and said, you don't need a garage. And they're exactly right. You don't need a garage, all right? That innovative spirit, if you have an idea and you have the right tools to go create something new and interesting, you can really make an impact. And you start with that social media, people find out about it much more quickly than ever before. And so you start this kind of revolution that Mark was talking about. The other thing that's really interesting in terms of the market dynamics here is the way people view data. Data used to be seen by most enterprises as gold. What do you do with gold? It's precious, you hide it in a vault, and you protect it, all right? But people are starting to move towards, they view data more like oil. It's to be used, it's to run things, it's to make a greater impact, all right? It's very valuable, but it's to be used. Being able to just get data and collect it and collect it and collect it and not be able to really use it for interesting purposes is really what was missing. And you see some very innovative companies that are looking at how they can monetize their data, how they can make their data available by way of APIs. And so I like this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. It says, do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. all right? If you have something of value in today's world, you want to be able to share it, and you want to be able to share it in an open community and have that open community be able to innovate and leverage and extend that. And data is an essential element to that. I remember back in the early days of .NET, you had all these great ideas, and .NET kind of collapsed. The reason, in my opinion, that .NET collapsed was you didn't have, once you got to a certain scale, your tools didn't scale with you. You had all this cost of the infrastructure. And so with cloud and agile tooling, you have the ability to take some of the load off so you can focus on where you want to innovate. So that means very small companies can make very big impacts now because they're not burdened as they get to scale with all the infrastructure costs because they can be on a cloud service provider. They can utilize tooling so they can do things in an extreme DevOps fashion. And they're constantly delivering and constantly operating that service versus having to wait for 6 to 12 to 18 months to deliver new function to the market, right? And that's why you see such a thriving ecosystem that's in place around IoT. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we had collaborated together with the SALT team was around our SDN. Networking is kind of the last place where you really needed to do things in a much more DevOps fashion and much more agile fashion. And so there's this big push around software-defined networking. And software-defined networking is really all about being able to take and do things in a more real-time fashion on a global scale, geographically dispersed implementation. And so we did that piece of work working with the SALT. We use it for our DevOps that we do internally. We also incorporated our SDN product into a SALT orchestration and configuration solution that we demonstrated last week at Interconnect. So we have a session later today, a breakout session from at 3:45 in Venetia, where we'll show what the two teams have been working on together. So I thank you for your time. I thank Mark and Tom and the team for inviting me to come, and enjoy the rest of the conference.